Hello everyone. In today's lesson we are going to be reviewing our multiplication, and I have separated the numbers with which we have learned how to do multiplication into categories based on how easy or hard they are to do multiplication with. So on the far left we have the easiest numbers to do multiplication with, whereas on the far right we have the hardest numbers to do multiplication with. We're going to explain each of them again so that you can remember how to do multiplication with each of these numbers, and then we're going to do some exercises together. So let's start with 0. The rule for 0 is when I have a multiplication with 0 in it, and it doesn't matter if this number, if 0 is first or second in a multiplication, and it doesn't matter what number it's multiplying. The result is always 0. It doesn't matter if I'm multiplying 0 with 100, with 150, with 10,000. I can multiply 0 with any number I want. I can just put random numbers in here. Sure. It'll still be 0. I should put a dot here. So the rule for 0, whenever I multiply a number with 0, the result will always be 0. Let's move on to 1. Let's remember the rule for 1. When I multiply a number with 1, that number always stays the same. So it doesn't matter, again, if 1 is first, second, third, it really doesn't matter. What I have to remember is that, okay, I'm multiplying 9 with 1, so 9 is going to stay the same. 9 times 1 then makes 9. Here I'm multiplying 1 with 23, so 23 is going to stay the same. It's going to be 23. Again, it doesn't matter what number I'm multiplying 1 with, it is going to stay the same. So let's say 54 times 1 would make 54. Next up, we have 2. Let's say I'm multiplying 6 times 2. To find this, I think to myself, what number am I multiplying 2 with? I am multiplying 2 with 6. I have to take the double of that number. So I have to find 6 plus 6. 6 plus 6 makes 12. So 6 times 2 makes 12. Let's say I'm multiplying 2 with 9. I have to think, well, what's the double of 9? Because I'm multiplying 2 with 9. So 9 plus 9 makes 18. Let's say I'm multiplying 2 with a bigger number, like let's say 20. Let's say I'm doing, or 30. Let's say I'm doing 30 times 2. I have to think, well, 30 plus 30 would make 60. So 30 times 2 makes 60. Next up, let's talk about 5. With 5, we need to remember the song that we say when we multiply, when we play hide and seek. So pede, pede, and so on. And then I think to myself, what number am I multiplying 5 with? Let's say I'm multiplying 5 with 3. Okay? Well, if you sing the song and you raise a finger for each number that you're saying, what you'd find is that on the third finger, I'm saying third because you're multiplying 5 with 3, on the third finger you'd find 15. Then let's say I'm doing 6 times 5. If you say the song, the sixth number, because I'm multiplying 5 with 6, is 30. Let's say I'm doing 4 times 5. If I say the song, the fourth number that I say is 20. And so this is how the trick for 5 works. Next, we're going to talk about 10. Let's say I'm doing the multiplication 8 times 10. This is also quite easy. I can just say, well, what number am I multiplying 10 with? 8, and just put a 0 at the end. So 80. Let's say I'm doing 10 times 6. I'm multiplying 10 by 6, so I'm going to write 6 and put a 0 after it. So 60. Let's say I'm multiplying 10 times 10. Okay, this is a little trickier because I'm multiplying 10 with 10. But 10 already has a 0 at the end, but that doesn't matter. It had it before I did the multiplication. So I need to put another 0 at the end and make it 100. Those are the tricks for 0, 1, 2, 5, and 10. Let's move on to 9. With 9, I need to remember the trick of 9, which I do using my hands, where I basically put my hands together with my palms facing me, and I start counting from my left thumb one number for each finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And I only close the finger of the number that I am multiplying 9 with. So let's say I have to do 3 times 9. So if I did the trick for 9, I would close the third finger. That would be the middle finger of my left hand. And I would say how many fingers are to the left of my closed finger? There are 2. And how many are to the right? There are 7. So 27. Let's say I'm doing 6 times 9. Here I'm going to close the 6th finger, which would be the pinky of my right hand. So how many are to the left? 5. And how many are to the right of my closed finger? 4. So 54. Lastly, let's say I'm doing 9 times 8. I would have to close the 8th finger from the left. That would be the middle finger of my right hand. So how many would be to the left? 7. And how many would be to the right? 2. So 72. That's the trick for 9. For 3, I basically have to remember by heart. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20, and 21, 24, 27, 30. I have to remember these by heart. And every time I multiply something with 3, I need to say this little song and count fingers for each number that I say. So let's say I'm going to do 6 times 3. I'm going to sing the song and of 3 and raise a finger until I get to the 6th finger, the 6th number that I say. So 3, 6, 9, that's 3 fingers. 12, 15, 18. 18 is the 6th number I say. Let's say I'm doing 3 times 8. I'm going to say the song of 3 until I get to the 8th number. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. So 24 is the 8th number I say. Lastly, let's say I'm doing 3 times 3. Now I'm going to say the song again until I get to the 3rd number because I'm multiplying 3 by 3. So 3, 6, 9. 9 is the 3rd number I say. Last number that I have a trick for is 4. With 4, I have to think of the double of the number I'm multiplying 4 with. So in this case, I am multiplying 4 with 7. I would have to say, well, 7 and 7 make 14. 14 and 14 make 28. If you can't do 14 and 14 in your mind, you can always write that in your notebook and come back to it later. let's say I'm doing 6 times 4. I'm currently multiplying 4 by 6, so I would have to do 6 plus 6 makes 12. 12 and 12 makes 24. Let's say I'm doing 4 times 4. I would think, well, what number am I multiplying 4 with? I'm multiplying 4 with 4. I'd say 4 and 4 makes 8. 8 and 8 makes 16. Basically, the difficult ones to remember, really, are this one, 4 times 7 makes 28, and 4 times 8, which I would have to think for that one. 8 plus 8 makes 16, and then you'd have to do 16 and 16, which makes 32. If you can remember that 16 and 16 makes 32, that would help you a lot. Lastly, I have 6, 7, and 8. And these are the multiplications that have no trick. I basically just have to remember the 9 multiplications that have just these 3 numbers and have none of these. I have to remember them by heart. So these multiplications are 6 times 6, 7 times 6, 8 times 6, 6 times 7, 7 times 7, 8 times 7, 6 times 8, 7 times 8, and 8 times 8. Let's put equal signs on all of that. Six times 6 makes 36. 7 times 6 makes 42. 8 times 6 makes 48. 6 times 7 makes 42. 7 times 7 makes 49. 8 times 7 makes 56. 6 times 8 makes 48. 7 times 8 makes 56. And 8 times 8 makes 64. These multiplications I have to remember by heart because there is a trick for them, but it's very difficult. And it's actually a bit better if you just learn these 9 multiplications by heart. And some of them are even the same. Like if you look at 7 times 6 and 6 times 7, they're the same. And then you have, and then you have 8 times 6 with 6 times 8, they're the same. And then you have 8 times 7 with 7 times 8, they're the same, they make 56. So you're better off learning these multiplications by heart instead of trying to learn the trick. So these are all the tricks that we have for each number that we're doing multiplication with. Now, once we learn these, we need to put them to practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to write some random multiplications. I'm going to erase all this now. We're going to write some random multiplications and try to see what trick I'm going to use on each of them. So I'm going to write them now. Be back in a second. And we're back. And we have the multiplications written. And what we need to do here is we need to figure out what trick to use for each multiplication. What that means is I want to try and look for the easiest number possible in each multiplication and use its trick. So you don't have to do these in order, by the way. You can just say that, okay, I'm going to do the easiest ones first. So for example, I would suggest look for 0 and 1. Those are the easiest ones. So 0 is here, right here. If you remember the trick for 0, it just says that anything at times 0, it's going to make 0. And anything at times 1 with, which is here, it stays the same. So 1 times 7 is going to be 7. The next easiest one is 2. And I can look for 2. It's right here. 2 times 6, I'm going to think 6 and 6. That makes 12. Next up, the easiest one is 10. Here. When I say whatever I multiply 10 with, I write it again. So I'm going to write 7 again. And I'm going to put a 0 at the end. Like that. So 70. Next I have 5. If I say the song of 5, the 6th number I'm going to say is 30. Next I have 3. 3 times 6. If I say the song of 3, I'm going to say 18 as the 6th number. Next I have 9. I could say 9 times 8 and do its trick, and I would get 72. Next we go for 4. I'm multiplying 4 with 7, so I say 7 and 7 makes 14. Sorry, shouldn't be writing that. And 14 and 14 makes 28. And last, I have these 3, which have no trick, and I just need to remember them. If you want, you can go back to the video to look again for these results. And also, these 3 are the most important, where I'm multiplying the 2 numbers that are the same. So 8 by 8, 6 by 6, 7 by 7. 8 times 8 makes 64. 6 times 6 makes 36. And 7 times 7 makes 49. That's all for today. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing some more advanced exercises with multiplication. So, see you again tomorrow.